Welcome to the European CME Forum podcast. European CME Forum is a not-for-profit organisation that promotes multi-channel discussion on matters relating to European and global CME-CPD. Its journal is the PubMed-indexed open-access peer-reviewed Journal of CME, or JCME. I'm Eugene Pozniak, Programme Director of European CME Forum. The 2025 JCME Special Collection is on the topic The Value of CME-CPD. The guest editor is Stephen Kawczak, Co-Medical Director of the Centre for Continuing Education at the Cleveland Clinic. We present the second in a series of conversations between Stephen and members of the Special Collection Editorial Board. In today's episode, Stephen is in conversation with Ron Cervero, Professor and Deputy Chair in the Department of Health Professions Education at the Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences. The focus of today's episode is this year's special collection on the value of CME-CPD.
Welcome to this Journal of CME conversation focusing on topics within the 2025 special collection. I'm Stephen Kawczak, and I'm fortunate to be serving as a guest editor for this collection. And our goal for this collection is to highlight the tremendous value continuing medical education and continuing professional development offers to healthcare professionals, and organizations to ultimately improve care. And a major aspect of what CME accomplishes is the improvement of performance of the learners, of the healthcare professionals that participate in CME, which ultimately can lead to improvement of patient health. And today we're honored to be chatting with Dr. Ron Cervero, who's an expert precisely in this. So Ron, welcome, first of all. And would you, as an editorial board member of this journal special collection, would you just tell us about yourself, your background, experience?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for the invitation and for the importance of this special issue for our field. Right. So I am currently at the Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences. It's the military's medical school here in the DC area. We have a Department of Health Professions Education that focuses on preparing clinicians for educational leadership opportunities within our military health system. We offer certificates and degrees. And I'm a professor and program director for academic programs. I came to USIS in 2016 after a long career at the University of Georgia. And so my background, I'm a PhD in adult learning, but really have focused a lot of my career in the area of health professions education, certainly starting with medical education, but broadening out to working with all the health professions, across the whole framework of the field. So that's a little bit about me. I mean, I know we've talked a little bit about one of my major research interests is in the impact of CME on performance and patient health outcomes. And so that's been kind of a through line of my research over the years.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks for sharing a bit about your rich experience and the work that you've done. So when you heard about this special collection and this opportunity to join this editorial board, what did you think about the value proposition of CME and CPD? Like what attracted you to joining and doing this?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is one of the central questions for our field, and it speaks to a lot of the changes that are occurring in healthcare and health professions education, but really looking more seriously at the value of the connection between health systems and the educational programs, specifically CME, CPD, across the health professions. And I think we really need, while there's a lot of practical interest in that, we really need much more scholarship around what is the value and how do the executives that are running, healthcare systems, how do they value CPD, and how can we learn about that and demonstrate that value? So I think it's a really great moment to be focusing on this scholarship. I hope we get a lot of submissions
Yeah,
from across
yeah,
from
yeah. So
across the globe.
me too. And thank you for joining. So in 2015, you published a really important synthesis looking at the literature and investigating the impact about CME and physician performance and the impact it had on actually improving or affecting patient health outcomes. Would you share a little bit about that work and the lessons learned? Because I think that's really important for those in our field to hear about, because CME does have value, and that paper in particular shared that with us.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm just going to give a very brief history of how I got to that point, because so I started working in 1980 for the Illinois State Medical Society and helping to run their CME accreditation system. And, there were starting to be papers published on can CME improve outcomes, performance and patient health outcomes. So those were starting to trickle in. So I had that interest. That's what started my interest in this area. And then in 1996, I had a PhD student at the University of Georgia, and we said, let's look at all of by that point, there had been a number of literature reviews, systematic reviews. So we collected a number of those, probably 20 or 25, I can't remember exactly. And then started down this road. And then in 2003, I had another PhD student, and we updated those papers. And of course, we found that then, as was replicated in 2015 paper, that yes, CME can improve clinician performance, and less so, but to some extent, patient health outcomes. And of course, the problem with that outcome is there's so many contributing factors to patient health outcomes, only one of which is education. And then, so then we come to 2015. So thank you, Stephen. That brings us up to that paper. And it was really motivated because it had been over a decade since we reviewed all the literature. So by then, I think there were something like 39 systematic reviews, literature reviews. They started in 77. And, so after looking at all of those, including the 8 we used for the 2015 paper, I think it's no longer a question: can CME improve clinician performance and patient health outcomes? So we really wanted to, because that's been shown repeatedly on these literature reviews, hundreds of studies that have been collected in these literature reviews and systematic reviews. So we really think that those questions should be put to bed, and we really need to understand what contributes. Like, how can we develop and design and implement these learning programs to make a difference? And we found a number of factors that were pretty consistent across across all of these studies, including, of course, active learning, including multi-component, multiple interventions, spaced interventions, and changes that physicians want to make, that they believe in. And so we found a number of these studies, we made a number of these conclusions. And so we reiterated it's important to really stop asking that question. We know the answer to it, and really try to understand why. And so this really, I think, that was 10 years ago. This really was part of this much larger movement of how is CME connected to the larger organizational structures, and how is it contributing to improving healthcare more generally. And so our overall point that I wanted to make at the end of that article is this is not a knowledge problem. We know how to create, and you do it at Cleveland Clinic very well, I would say, because you're a closed system. as we are with the military health system. We could demonstrate this. It's so we know how to do this. Some places do it exceedingly well. It's more of a political structural problem. Like you have to have the political will to want to make these changes and to create the programs that will improve clinician performance and patient health outcomes. So that's really the message is how do you align the CME within the organization, particularly the healthcare systems, um, to make those differences. So that was the major takeaway, I think. I know that's a long answer, but there was a whole history here. The paper
Yeah,
didn't just show up in 2015, and there was, we kept reaching the same conclusions based on all the studies.
yeah. No, thank you for that, and for sharing about the history. I think you're reminding us all of how well established our field is and how credible our field is in terms of educating healthcare professionals, and that's had positive outcomes in their performance and beyond, and that's proven, right? And we should
Yeah,
we
yeah.
should remind our community of that. And that's one of the purposes of this special collection. Is I don't think we can spotlight that enough, and share those outcomes enough. But I loved your point about beyond that and what's been happening since then, and the focus of education being part of the value equation and a contributor to that. And thanks for noting my organization. I'm blessed to work with a lot of colleagues that are committed to improvement and are willing to partner with education, and we're in the background, right? Or we might be leading something that they've determined needs to improve, and we're just one part of the chain that will ultimately
Yeah.
lead to that. So it's complex, but it can be
Mhm.
done. And so, what would you encourage those in continuing education or continuing professional development to focus on in terms of what they should be studying in their work?
Um, I mean, I think a couple things. Certainly, to the point I made, is really trying to better understand the why. Like, in what ways can we design learning programs to make the differences that will improve everyone's health and improve clinician performance? So I think the focus on the why, as opposed to, just asking, does it? Um, and really, part of that is really connecting it to the systems, the healthcare systems, of which CME is one of the contributors and maybe a major contributor to improving those outcomes. So how do we align um, those systems, including education, uh, to make the differences that we all aspire to? And I mean, it's a lot easier in a healthcare system, in a hospital, to do these kinds of studies. It's more difficult if you're running a professional society, because people are coming from so many different organizations. So it's still doable. It's just harder to do, I think. So those of us who work in healthcare systems, I think it's easier for us to provide the leadership on these kinds of studies.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. And you made a comment early on when you were reflecting on this special collection and just the value proposition in general of continuing education and the need for more scholarship. And the comment you made was that the value needs to be seen by the executives that are ultimately overseeing all of our education units, regardless of where you are in the world. Healthcare
Yeah.
is always squeezed and costs are always tough. So, what are your thoughts about just sharing this story with organizations, no matter what type of organization you're in? Why is this important?
Yeah. I mean, um, it's critical that this story be told repeatedly with evidence to to the leaders of the healthcare organizations that we're a part of, and engage them and say, we're all on the same team, so we're trying to, you want better health outcomes for your health care system. You want the cost proposition to make sense. We are part of the solution, so I think that's the kind of the key message to make. And I mean, certainly because these executives provide the funding and other support for offices that we run, like you run at Cleveland Clinic. But also, I mean, I think we care. We're part of something bigger than ourselves. So we want to see that our efforts, our daily efforts, can make the differences that we all aspire to, in terms of especially patient health outcomes and community health outcomes.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, that's it's a great segue back to this journal, because it's an encouragement to tell these stories, to tell the stories about how they are changing healthcare, and this really matters, and to share that on a repetitive basis. And what better call to prospective authors to take the time to study their work and share about their work and contribute to this special collection. So what advice would you have to a prospective author who maybe doesn't know where to start, or doesn't do much scholarship, or doesn't know if their work fits here? What advice do you have?
There's a whole framework for scholarship that was initiated in the early 90s by Ernest Boyer. And so he talked about, and this framework is well used in medical schools and everywhere else in higher ed. But he talks about the scholarship of discovery and the scholarship of integration. So the scholarship of discovery is what we would think about as original research. And the scholarship of integration is the scholarship that, we focused on in these articles, like what can we learn by integrating across studies? And those are important. And I think they can be intimidating, like you said, for educators who feel like, well, I don't know if I can do that. I'm not really prepared. But there's also the scholarship of teaching and learning, and which provides kind of the intellectual framework for innovations that we want to develop and how to study those. And I hope that the journal is able to provide that this is an outlet for the scholarship of teaching and learning, where you have an innovation that you've developed at your workplace, and that you can not just describe it, but study it. And I think these innovations are absolutely critical. The research is critical also, but the scholarship of teaching and learning is very practical. And you could see changes on the ground through that, and learn how to do it better by providing a scholarly basis. So I hope that some of the authors who might feel they might be intimidated by, quote, original research and scholarship of discovery, there's definitely an important place for the work you're doing and can contribute to this journal.
Well, thank you, Ron, for that encouragement and reminder about the variety of ways to approach this. And the Journal of CME, I think, is here to advance that goal. There's different article types, just to remind viewers and listeners. It could be a commentary, a brief report, or of course original research, if that fits with the work that you're doing. So thanks for listening and or watching us, and I really appreciate, Ron, you taking time to share your insight and perspectives on the history of our field and the priorities in our field. And I know I'm leaving here encouraged and challenged to continue to share about the work that we're doing, because it is important work, and I hope that that this special collection helps shine a spotlight on that. So thanks again.
You bet. Thank you.
That was Journal of CME guest editor Stephen Kawczak with Ron Cervero discussing this year's special collection on the value of CME-CPD. Journal of CME is the PubMed-indexed open access journal of the European CME Forum, publishing articles that address aspects of CME-CPD planning, design, delivery, assessment and regulation across the health professions. More information can be found on the journal's website, jcme.org. Thank you for listening, and join us for more episodes as we explore all things CME-CPD.